checks.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming tonight. This is a meeting of the HPDD Review Board. Jim Purington, Doug Briggs, Dick Williams, Michelle Van Reet, myself, Chris Senical. We're here. Tamika Murphy's the secretary taking notes. First item on the agenda this evening is the meeting minutes. We have a couple past December 27th first. We didn't do that one last time. I kind of jumped ahead a little bit. I was a little anxious, I think. Anybody have any?
Make a motion to accept December 27th minutes, 2021.
As they're written, okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Doug. Any discussion? All right, none heard. Let's have a roll call. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous, carries. Let's second is the meeting minutes from the April 20th meeting. Any changes anybody wants to make? I'm good with them as they are. I don't have any.
Make a
Nice
motion.
job, Tamika. That was a lot of notes.
To make them? Yeah, I just voted on the December minutes, but I looked and saw that I was absent, so I have to abstain from that vote. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Make a motion to accept the April 20th minutes.
Second.
All right, Doug, second, thank you. Any discussion? All right, none heard. We have a roll call on this one. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, no opposed. That carries unanimously. Thanks, Tamika. All right, first up on the public hearing is the Harbor Classic Homes definitive site plan review for the proposed 55 community up at Rutland Heights Way. This is continued from April 20th. And good evening, guys. Nice to see you here tonight. I gave us a lot of paperwork there over the last week. So just I'll turn the meeting over to you guys to talk about the traffic study particularly and whatever else new. I know there was some new plans that just came out today. But honestly, I have not had a chance to even look at those. We got the traffic study earlier in the week from Mr. George, and I mean, that thing is a beast. Yeah. And I'm not a traffic study expert, so I suppose you guys will go through that tonight and kind of give us the highlights of that.
Yeah, we can do that.
Right.
And
Anything
Wes-
else you want to
Wes
prepare
can
to
give
do
us
tonight?
an update because he did send a response letter to all of the Quinn
Comments?
review questions, comments. So
Can run through those documents, basically what you submitted this week, right?
Sure, I can do that, yeah.
Sure, thanks, Wes.
You already printed out a copy, right?
Yeah, everything is online at
Does
the
it need
time.
to go to you, or does it need to go to the official?
I'll take the file, I'll take that for the file. Anything for the file, I'll take.
It's behind us.
All right,
Should we be shifted around?
Unfortunately, this one's on IT,
You guys got
everything
the-
was blocked, but
That's fine.
ICT
You guys did
is
get
gonna
the
see.
Yeah, she printed it out.
Do you see anybody up here that has a hand up?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I don't think we're gonna have a problem.
Which are you going through first?
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
I don't know where you want me to stand on this one.
I think you're fine right there.
Okay.
Feel comfortable.
All right, Wesley Tango Associates for Division of Haley Ward. What I gave the board this evening was our response letter to Quinn Engineering, and also a rendering and a floor plan of the proposed units that the developer had created for this project. I know in the email that we sent to David, we also sent over the updated site plans.
Okay, yeah.
Go over some of the items on there from a standpoint of what the board is looking for. I'm not sure there's anything major in the plans that need to really be discussed with the board. A lot of it had to do with technical items that Quinn Engineering was looking for. I do know we show the location of the lighting on the plan, the thought for the location of lighting, and then the letter also is we're proposing lights every other duplex. And so basically every 40 units is a light post. Is the intent on the lighting. I know that the developer is still looking at what type of lighting they want to use up there. The intent is to obviously have the downward facing lighting. shorter posts, nothing too obstructive. Obviously, they want to make everything aesthetically pleasing for the development.
Yeah.
I know also on the letter, I did make a note, and we can kind of get into it. I don't know if you want to get into it now or if we can get into it later. I know there was a question about the types of trees and bushes. I know I got an email today from Laurel about trees, bush species. And so we can have that conversation with the board too tonight, or if you want to have that on a later date, it's up to the board on how you guys want to handle the specifics on what kind of planting's going on out there.
Is there a landscaping plan, Wes, that you have?
So on the site plans that we showed, we did show locations of trees and shrubs throughout the development. I know there was a question of what type of trees and shrubs, and so that was something that they did get to us today. I didn't include it in the plan itself, because I wanted to have that conversation with the board to make sure you guys are comfortable with the types of trees and shrubs. But like,
All right.
we can have that conversation tonight, or we can have it.
Yeah, if we got time, let's
Okay.
try to give as much
We can get that
feedback and
into the
direction as we
letter.
can.
Now, I know also, you made the comment that earlier in the week, we did forward along the traffic study. The traffic engineer was not able to come this evening. To kind of give you the real quick summary of the report, the way we look at it is, and similar to what we had kind of envisioned anyways in this type of project, it's an over 55 development. You don't see a large increase of traffic, especially in the AM peak hours. PM peak hours, it overlaps a little bit more, because obviously the people are out doing more during the afternoon and peak, evening hours. But in the AM hours, you don't see a large increase for this development for the AM peak period. I can't remember what the exact number was, but it was very minor, even for the afternoon peak hours. The biggest thing that the report made mention of, and I think for the town standpoint, not necessarily for this development standpoint, is that the intersection of 56 and 122A, is it? That intersection there's already an existing issue with regards to the level of service when they look at delays of traffic coming out during AM and PM peak hours. And so there's already that issue. This development doesn't really make any additional issue above and beyond that issue that's currently out there. I can't remember the number. I want to say
It's about 1%.
1%
Yeah.
increase, so it's
About
not a
average.
significant increase.
During the morning, it's less than 1%.
Yep,
In the
0.7.
afternoon, it's 1.7%.
Right.
So
That's
the
it.
increases aren't substantial with regards to this development, so it's really to bring the attention to the town, and I'm sure the town already knows that that intersection has the delays in the morning and the evening hours. And it's something that the traffic engineer wanted to bring that to the attention of the town.
Back when there were horses, they had delays there too.
And it might be something that you guys can use that data and the traffic analysis to further, look at that intersection. That might be something the town wants to do with that intersection.
Okay.
But it's really nothing that's really being exasperated by this development. Everything else they looked at, the other intersections, they operate within acceptable levels, before the development and after the development. It's really that one intersection that they wanted to raise a red flag for the town for, just to make sure that the town knew that there was an existing issue there.
Yeah.
If you're done
Go ahead.
going over that. Just a couple of general questions.
Sure.
Why did they do, I think it was Prouty Lane and Main Street, which is the other side of 122, which is the other side of Main Street, but did
Right.
not do 56?
I don't know that, I'll take
And then also Prescott, they did Prescott Street
They-
across.
They did, the following intersections were.
I know the 5 they did, but what about 56?
They did 56 in Prescott. They did 56 in Rutland Heights, 56 in Main Street, 122A in Prouty Lane, 122A in
Okay.
Newburgh School driveway.
I'm sorry, yeah, 56 North, Palmagussit.
He does talk about that.
He does?
Yeah.
Where?
I'm pretty sure he does.
No.
So this intersection right here.
Yeah, the one-
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, because it's not a straight through, and we can take a look
It
at that.
may be irrelevant to where we're headed, but it seems like a clear miss in the traffic study.
Well, I think-
Clearly, it's more important than Prouty Lane.
Yeah, I think the thought there is if you're going to signalize one of those intersections, you have to signalize to the two of them together, is probably what the thought is there.
No, I just was wondering
But-
why it wasn't even looked at.
Yeah, we can forward that question off.
I can ask
Yeah.
Sam.
Yeah.
And a second general question is, did the traffic engineer realize that Naquag School Road actually also services Central Tree and ties in with with the project, because it doesn't, on none of the diagrams, it
Yeah, I'd have to take a
connects
look.
with the project, and also the traffic coming and going
I know what you're
from
talking about, yeah.
from the Naquag driveway or road, I guess
Right.
it is, doesn't show any impact at all from the project, and clearly during off school times,
There'll be some impact.
there'll be some
I
impact.
mean, what is that?
So I just don't know if it just didn't give me the fact that wasn't,
It's a way, it isn't a street.
yeah.
So that's one thing too I wanted to discuss with the board, and I don't know if the traffic study really, you know, what do you think with the kids there and this traffic? You think there's any issue with this, going through the school area there with the kids? I mean, it's just another road, is it? Is there any concerns from this board about the traffic coming to and fro, different times of the day, you know, recess times or whatever? You know, that's when it's gonna be used probably the most, when the kids are out there
Yeah.
in that softball field there, they have recess out there. I mean, it's fenced in, you know?
Yeah, my answer, concerns, but I don't think it's anything that this traffic study would address, because this is just a boilerplate, run some numbers type thing.
Do you know if they made any recommendations in regards to the schools, or noted that the school's there and the student population during different times of the day and in the afternoons when because those fields there's two groups of fields, one right at Central Tree with soccer and softball there, and then there's baseball fields and soccer fields up right behind the Naquag school, and just, you know, over the weekends, those are used for sporting events. After school, they're used for sporting events. They're used for the middle school athletics, as well as the town youth athletics. And there's already a parking issue up at the fields up at Naquag. I mean, that thing, the cops always used to give me a hard time. The parents would park on the road. I'm just a coach. Don't
They
arrest me.
shouldn't.
I can't make these guys park off the road. There's no parking on the thing. I don't know. So I just want to bring it up. It's, whenever you talk about the kids and stuff, it's always everybody else gets in a dither, and half the time it's kind of not really warranted. But
I don't know if Dave knows about this anyways, but I mean, our DPW director has been trying to get a complete street from Main Street all the way back to the Heights. You know, in a straight line he was planning on trying to put a new street in and all that, and so it won't be a way.
so you're saying from like in front of Naquag on 122A,
On 122A.
all the way down to
Yeah.
56,
all,
like that would be a
That's been in
legitimate
the
road.
plans, right?
all the way to the
Okay.
newer part of
The
Heights.
Yep, that new paved area.
Yes.
Because the Heights is already a road down, correct? That section.
That
that's
part of it is,
Yes.
but once you get over the line
lot
to
line
Central,
stops.
that's a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a drive-by at that point, yeah.
So it does need to be, in my opinion, handled by the town
Yeah.
in a faster pace than what it is now.
So have you
Yes.
guys had any discussions on the RDIC board about that roadway and the improvements that it might need to be, not a way, but an actual accepted street and road?
Yeah.
Is there any
Yeah.
discussions with that?
I believe, Doug, didn't we submit something to the select board at one point about that?
Me?
To get a grant?
Oh, that was years ago, and they just let it lapse.
Okay, yeah, like for years we've been talking
The
about
900.
this.
That was $900,000.
So, yeah, but I don't know about the current select board because that was years ago, so,
But I'm just saying right now, like in your RDIC meetings, is there any discussion about getting that road up to speed with the DPW? Or they
we
just-
haven't talked about it recently that I can recall, but we could certainly bring it up. Right, Dick?
Very much so.
Because if that's not even to a
Right.
specification of a regular road today, and that should be addressed. And I'm not sure that really it's this applicant's problem, more so than it's the town's responsibility to,
Yeah.
if you're gonna allow someone to put property in like this and develop it, you gotta give them the somewhat means, What
Yeah.
do you guys think? What does the board think of that? I mean, what's our opinion regarding that? Is it the developer's problem or is it the town's problem to upgrade that road?
It's the town's
Yeah.
problem.
I don't know.
Town, and not only that, after last night, and the Mass Regional Planning Transportation person was there and said there is quite a bit of grant money, and so something like this is something the town select board should jump on and get rolling.
Are they doing, when they're doing Maple Ave, are they also gonna do the Heights Way?
to the best of my knowledge, no.
No?
Does the traffic study, you know, does it talk about that section of road as not being, you know, fit for it to be called a road and it's just a way? I mean, did they reference anything about that piece?
When you go past the development.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm trying- If you would just kept going by your, coming off of 56, you go down the straightaway, go up the hill, and rather than taking a left into your new development, you just go straight. It's like a little S turn to get to the school. That little section right there. Did they address anything about
I
that?
don't remember specifically.
So the only thing that I'm trying to find is, there was something mentioned in there about signage to direct traffic not to go through there.
So are they making that a one-way?
No, I think they're
No.
trying to.
No, I think they're trying to get it so that if traffic enters from Maple onto Rutland Heights, they go into the project, and when they exit the project, instead of taking a left and going through the school, they
Go back to where
right
they
and go
came.
back. Exactly. So if I can find it, I'll point it out to you.
Okay.
You can have signage, but
I don't think that would ever happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, the signage is a nice thought, but people do what they want today, boy.
The problem, I think, with the traffic study, and it's not that it's a problem, it's that the traffic that's gonna be generated from the project is just, it's so minimal that it's hard to say that there's gonna be any type of significant impact that requires some type of work, mitigation measures, anything along those lines, because we're dealing with, what they calculated was basically 53 trips, peak hour morning, 63 trips, peak hour afternoon, on over a 7-day time frame, with, I think, a total of an additional 733 motor vehicle trips
Mhm.
throughout the week. And the impact
each day,
Each day.
each day.
is so minimal that it's hard to say, if they don't think any mitigation measures are necessary. The only thing that they thought the town may do or is already doing is have some type of additional traffic study done on that main intersection between 56 and 122A, because it's just a bad intersection now. Bad in the sense that it's hard to, I think, take a left, and the people that are trying to take a right have to wait for extended periods because you can't take a left. But there's no room to make a
Yeah,
right
double
turn
lane,
lane,
yeah.
and
Right,
it's just
so tight with those buildings there.
That is correct.
Yeah, there's no room.
It's,
And you got people coming the other way trying to get down to the air.
it's
Yeah.
more of
Yeah,
it's more of a
fluctuate.
town issue than it is this
Yeah.
project creating the problem, so.
I don't think, you know, certainly you're adding traffic, but I don't think, you know, this is your responsibility to upgrade or install traffic lights at Route 56 and 122A. That's my opinion. I don't know if the board, anybody on this board has any other say, but I would need a traffic study to.
And that's,
justify
I think
that.
that's if you look at the bullet points at the very end, the conclusions.
You may not be helping the problem, but the problem's been long there.
Right.
So that's,
Yes.
it's a well-known fact. I don't think anybody's gonna dispute that on this board or any other board in town.
You know, what they're saying
We're
is.
just proud not to have a traffic light in town.
What they're saying at the end, part of the conclusions,
It's a warrant away.
the low impact of the project and the negligible impact on the overcapacity conditions do not warrant a specific site-related construction of a traffic signal at this location. However, you know, it may warrant a further traffic study for recommendations to the town. But it's because the problem already exists, and that was their conclusion.
Yeah, so is this the deal that breaks the, you know, the camel's back?
Right.
You know, who knows, right? But bottom line, it's not.
Just to let you know, way back, you know, MassDOT used to say, we can't put a light there because it's on a hill coming in. You can't stop traffic for the wintertime basis and try to take them
Right.
off. So that's one reason why they've been fighting not having a light there.
And one of the other points that the traffic study points out is your line of sight distances exceed the minimum requirements. So I think the minimum requirement is maybe 350 feet, and it's 600. So that's another part of the problem with Mass DOT is, you know, there's not enough of bad things to warrant either a signalization or a further study or other mitigation measures.
Including the sunlight in your eyeballs twice a year.
Right.
Survival of the fittest there. Okay.
All right.
All right, so what about construction traffic entering the site? It's gonna be,
So that can be restricted a lot easier by the developer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can restrict that out to Rutland Heights way up to 56. That-
56, I mean, is anybody concerned about the construction traffic cutting through the school areas?
That should be a stipulation.
Yes.
Something in an order of conditions or
Yeah,
something?
Yeah, that could be a
I don't know.
condition,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Keep posted, you know, in case they have a half a day school and, you know, the buses are running through early or something like that.
Right.
But, hopefully that, you know, when school's let out in June.
It makes it,
Yeah, true, during the summer, you could, wouldn't matter.
So the school calendar for next year has already been published too on the district site.
Wow,
So
okay.
that's already available for which days are half days and no school.
Yep.
All right, any other immediate concerns or anything regarding the traffic study that you guys have any questions on? Anything for you?
I just hope that Joe Buckley will take a look at this program in his spare time about this, you know. He's a very busy person, the DPW director, so.
Okay.
But
You
he
know,
should be kept up to date.
Copy of the study,
I didn't specifically send it, but I can.
okay.
It's probably good information for him to add to his, you know, his knowledge.
And you might want to send it to the chief of police as well, just to
Sure.
see if he has any recommendations or comments.
Yeah, it's gotta go out to everybody, right? Every department's here, the traffic study talking.
Yeah.
Yes.
It probably would help, you know, the town to make a decision, hey, let's
Usually
get cranking.
the police department has a pretty good
They,
beat on
they got a
traffic.
pretty good read, yeah.
Yeah.
They got a good beat on what's going on, so.
Yeah, just a question for David. Do you have a recommendation regarding giving this to Quinn or another engineer for review?
Right, so I discussed that with the applicant, and I provided an email to the board,
Mhm.
and I drew the board's attention to the recommendations, or the conclusion sections of page 24 and 25. Now, I'll work towards an answer to your question. Maybe I'll work to an answer to your question by asking some questions here. So, can you tell us about the traffic analysis company who did that, what their credentials are, approximately how long they've been in the business, how many traffic studies they've done throughout time?
Off the top of my head, I cannot.
Well,
We can get you that information.
Well, do you recognize them as experts in the field, I
Yes.
guess?
And I've worked with them on other projects over the years, so they've been on both sides of the table. They've done traffic studies for applicants, they've done peer review for cities and towns, so.
So they, in your opinion, they have a lot of experience,
Oh, yeah,
such that would you conclude that they're using the best practices in the traffic engineering and study world, and that those standards were applied to this particular study?
yeah, and I think if you go through the report, you see that they identify, you know, the national associations, Mass DOT, and they make reference to all of the manuals and regulations that you're supposed to take into account when you do a traffic study of this nature, so.
So then I think the question is, what's the likelihood of the recommendations and the results to be contradicted? If they've used the requirements of the industry and the professional standards and judgments, and they have experience in the field, and they've done a lot of traffic studies over a long period of time, what's the likelihood of the conclusions being contradicted? If it's gonna be low, I mean, I think the traffic study seems to tell everybody what we think we already know about the town's layout, especially the 56 and 122. So I'm gonna have to leave it to the board, but I think I've seen enough traffic studies in my time to see that this looks like your standard traffic study. It has the same kind of methodology which backs it up and which is required. So if you have another peer review, you're most likely gonna end up with the same results. They're probably gonna be in agreement. So does the board want to expend that amount of time and request the applicant, accede to that request and pay for that services and add time onto this project? Or are you comfortable with what you have?
Well, in my opinion, I went through it a little bit. I mean, it's pretty standard in with the low amount of cars, less than 1% and just 1.7%. I'm not too worried about the general traffic flow on the roads. The only concern I have that I don't think is addressed in the thing is just the impact around the schools. And I just think we should, we just got to do our due diligence there, just to see, if any, what impact this is going to have with the bus traffic during those mornings and afternoons, and with the kids being there during the recreation times and whatnot, and the weekends and after school times. And if that could be addressed, again, to those standards, Dave, then, and again, if it's, there's no concerns, there's nothing even on the radar, like, that traffic study, like you said, it's just, it's an existing problem, yeah, they're not making it better, but that problem is not really their problem. So, I just think that should be, just one item that should be would help us, make me feel better on this board, knowing what the kids there, the schools there, just to make sure we get that kind of.
So certainly if the board goes in that direction, then a traffic peer review would not be necessary. You'd be looking for supplemental information on these
I think so.
particular
I just think
questions.
if I'd ask the attorney and Wes if you could reach out to these folks and see if they could.
I will.
It's because it's not this ain't in the manual, right? It's kind of odd. You get the two schools there. Not that it's odd, but it's just you got a private way there connected up to this. Just it would be nice to have an opinion from them.
I can ask Sam, put down there, how can we mitigate traffic impact to the schoolway?
If there isn't,
Right.
look at that. Is there an issue, and is there something we have to deal with? And
I think that the biggest thing with that is how does it coordinate with, if they want to make it a public way, I think there's a battle there. I think it almost might be better to leave it as a driveway than maybe sign it that it's not a public way.
And that's,
But
Exactly.
that's
maybe
been,
their
But
opinion on
it's
that would
been
be
used as a
great.
public way, though.
that's been my
It's-
experience, because once it becomes a public way, when you try to regulate and restrict traffic flow on a public way, it's very, very difficult.
From the town's perspective, you're saying?
Yeah.
Attorney?
Yeah, and it's already been being used as a public way, so I think that's already happening. We use it all the time.
I would say that, in my judgment, that the town's initiative to turn that into a full-scale road overwhelms any effects day-to-day traffic from this project would have on it as a road or a way.
Right.
So I think if we're concerned about commuter traffic, whatever, going through there more than it does, then we take that up
With the town.
with the town's initiative to turn it into a road
I agree with
rather
that.
than with this project.
Right.
I would, if it remains a way, I think it would be good if it was signed to discourage traffic
Not a throughway.
from going down it, and also whether it's a way or road, to prohibit trucks from going down it.
Well, they can certainly prohibit the construction vehicles,
Yes.
but I don't think they can, because once they leave the development, Rutland Heights Way is a public way. They can't tell people that they have to turn right there.
Well, that's the only part
Right.
that's public, though. Once you go left and leave the development,
That's
that's not
private.
public, that's private, that's part of the school, that's part of the town's school.
That's part of the
Town's
town's
property.
property, but people have already been using that as a
Yeah.
way. So
Right.
that's why I'm saying it's not your responsibility there to impede traffic. That's the town's
Well, I
responsibility.
think we could sign it, though. We could
It's,
probably sign
it's
it.
public up to like 5 feet before
Yes.
With the
the
3 feet
property
before the
line.
Yes.
property line.
Because
3 feet.
we
yeah.
saw that when we
Yes.
were going through the site plan,
Yes.
Yes.
which it stayed that way. The Rutland Heights Way stopped.
Yes.
The public layout of Rutland Heights Way stopped about 5 feet from the boundary line.
I did not realize that they were not legally connected.
They're not.
Thank you.
So
Right,
the RDIC still owns that 5-foot strip
right.
that runs along the end of Rutland Heights Way and abuts the town.
Which
Do you
is
remember the whole
technically
property
town
line thing?
property.
How that was,
Yeah,
until they drew that line up along that road and went to the property line. This lot they're purchasing was all part of the piece behind Bill's
right.
garage that we connected to that whole other side of the road. It was all one parcel.
If you want
because
to
of that.
prevent traffic, just have the
Yeah.
RDIC put a toll booth there. And people will definitely take a running.
But again, I definitely think that's a town issue, though, not their issue.
Yeah, just in conclusion, my part, I did mention what I thought were a couple of shortcomings with the study, but I did preface it by saying I'm not sure that it would have any impact on the conclusions. And in general, I agree with what David said, is that it appears to have been done in accordance with standards, and it appears very negligible. So.
Okay. So Dick, your comment earlier that the DPW is he trying to upgrade that piece of the way, or what?
Yeah.
What's his concerns about that roadway? That it doesn't meet roadway standards?
He wants to get it up to date, wider, better lanes, also sidewalks
Yeah.
and both sides, and,
Okay.
oh yeah, I mean,
Continue it like the piece that's already there, like coming up
roughly,
on-
but he wanted to make it, he might have to pick up some piece of property, you know, from the Bigelows or something like that, to make it straight, right from where, at the heights where, and continue straight, and come right out.
All right. All right, so maybe we can just get some of those questions, if you guys don't mind looking at the traffic study. And then we can double back to this, and if things seem pretty, pretty mundane, then I don't think there'll be the need for a traffic peer review. Yeah. Dave?
Is that a decision that you're gonna hold until you get the supplemental information, or?
Yeah. I just think, we'll just take, keep a hold on this until we get the supplemental information, and again, if there's no need for a peer review, then we should be good to go.
Okay.
All right?
Very
Keep things moving along, and there's no problem. I mean, there's no reason to go look for a problem. Yeah, so. You guys feel the same way there?
Yep.
Everybody good with that? Okay. All right. What else you have?
So I did submit a letter going over all of our responses. I know we talked at the last meeting about some of these, and there are a couple other questions that I have. I think one of the questions will be with regards to the plantings, but if I could just quickly go down the letter I gave you and ask you a few questions that,
Sure.
just make sure that we're all on the same page with this. A lot of these can be addressed by either the updates to the plans or just updates to the drainage calculations, which I did email over to Quinn Engineering, so they can actually take a look at it and check off the ones that they're okay with, and obviously have a conversation with the ones that they may not agree with our answers with. Number 3 was regards to if the board, I guess the question is, does the board feel that we need to get a waiver or not? And we talked about this last meeting. These aren't going to be public roadways. They're designed as, we look at it as a 24-foot wide driveway servicing a condo development. And so we can ask for the waiver, but we weren't sure if we actually need to ask for the waiver. Because they were asking about profiles of roadways and utilities. Like I said, it's not a public roadway, and so we weren't designing it as a subdivision, we're designing it as a condo development. So we look at it as 2 separate ways. I know there's regulations we need to follow, but we were just curious if the board sees that if we can ask for the waiver. I didn't know if we needed to ask for the waiver.
Right now, I would say yes. And going to continuing this, the same is mentioned in a little more detail on the bottom of page 5, where I had thought when last time we were talking, we were talking about 3 types of road. One is a public roadway, which is not. Second is a private roadway, the perimeter roadway, and third is a driveway. And for the life of me, I don't see why
So
the project.
Even a private roadway would have a right-of-way with it.
Right.
We're not creating any new right-of-ways.
But
We're not creating any new
No,
lots.
I understand all that, the right of way, but just from an engineering standpoint,
Yeah.
why would you make a private perimeter road the standard of a driveway instead of something
Well,
between a driveway and
I take that
a
back.
public
So,
road?
We're not creating a private roadway. I designed it to meet the subdivision rules and regulations with regards to grades, width of pavement. And so yes, I did look at the subdivision rules and regulation, make sure I did design that main loop road and the 2 connector driveways to make sure I met all the grade requirements. But we're not creating right-of-ways, we're not creating roadways, even if it's a private roadway. So that's where I would say we differentiate, was we're not creating that right-of-way, we're not creating an actual roadway. even if it's a private roadway, these are driveways,
Well-
this is how we would look at it. It's one piece of property, all within one piece of
I'm
property.
thinking of from a use,
Yep,
a use standpoint, from trucks,
yeah,
trash trucks, snow plows,
Right.
driving on it.
Yep.
And a driveway has 12 inches total depth, and a public roadway has 24 inches total depth. Well, there's something in the middle. It would seem to me, from a civil engineering standpoint, that you would want something in the middle, maybe an 18-inch depth on your perimeter roadway,
well.
or whatever you want to call it, on your perimeter driveway, rather than, that's going to be handling a lot of truck traffic, rather than a driveway standard.
The only truck traffic they're gonna see is during construction though. The only other truck traffic afterwards is gonna be really track trucks. It's gonna be a residential development, it's not really truck traffic.
Yeah, the two I mentioned were
And
snow
so that-
plows.
And so, well, even
Snow
snow
plow.
plows, it's not a, we look at it as trailer trucks. We differentiate between a trailer truck and a smaller truck, weight-wise.
Mhm.
And so that's why when we look at the gravel depth, we were comfortable with the 12-inch depth. Typically on a small, like a residential driveway, you're talking 6 to 8 inches of gravel, then you're looking even less. When you're talking about a normal driveway to a house. And so that's why we're showing 12 inches. If you look at subdivision rules, regulations, and municipalities all around here, you get varying depths from 12 to 24, and you guys have the most that we've seen in this area at 24. But looking at the type of development, we don't see it as being the necessity to do 24, and that's why we're asking for the 12. If the board sees that we need to go somewhere in between, that's up to the board, and when you vote for the waiver. But I know Quinn Engineering made the recommendation that they didn't have an issue with the 12 inches of depth of gravel because for the type of development it is.
I'll have to read it.
And then I know, actually for all our waiver requests, they didn't have an issue with any of our waiver requests, which we weren't asking for a lot of waivers. There was 5 of them that we initially requested. They mentioned 3 of them. I think we're gonna add a few more as part of their peer review. But they're all pretty standard with regards to I guess, because of the type of development, like I said, it's not there's no right of ways, there's no streets, there are a couple of things that we look at as more of a condo development than a subdivision. And I know one of the items that we
Okay.
talked about last meeting was the separation of the
Yeah.
sidewalks and the road.
I think I would just like to ask clarification from Quinn Engineering, is our 12-inch on perimeter driveways, or whatever the applicant calls them, standard,
12 inches.
or not
is-
standard, are they commonly
Well, they
Yes.
actually-
commonly used on
Yes.
other,
If I'm doing a parking lot for myself, on my own private property, for like one of my commercial buildings, I just do 12 inches.
and they
Process
actually-
gravel, and then, then the 2 coats. You got a binder and then top coat, right?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
And they may actually made the comment on their peer review letter, where they made it that 12-inch depth is consistent with the general practice for private driveways for residential. So, and they,
Yeah.
obviously they defer to the board to.
Like this driveway, this driving area out here, that would be 12 inches.
Yeah.
Okay, now, in Rutland, and, you pointed this out, Wes, that, we go up to 24 inches. Water's always the problem, groundwater, right?
Correct, yep.
That's one of that and the truck traffic that you talked about. And Rutland ain't named, dry land, it's named Rutland, And it's a very, you look at the topography maps, it's got a lot of notches, like, and they get wet fast. And you see some of those roads, you'd be going down a hill, the road is beautiful, and then the bottom is just a mess. Because that frost and that water in the ground, during the cold, that winter, late winter season, beats the hell out of the road, so.
And so Quinn did bring up the groundwater issue too. So I know we do have some areas that we have some significant cuts to get into the subdivision, or into the development, into the development. And so we are showing under drains under that section of roadway, so that we're trying to obviously alleviate some of that groundwater issue.
Keep the groundwater
So,
up.
and that was something that, they brought up, that they asked us to add to the plans.
The other thing that I would like to point out is typically, the street and utility profile and all that stuff, with the subdivision regulations, they want to make sure that the design is correct, so that when you get to the final stage, you have the as-built to verify that it was done according to the design. Because the reason they require that is because ultimately the roadways, the developer would come to the town and say, please accept the street as a public way. And you're turning over the roadway to the town. To Wes's point, this will be a private development condominium where the homeowners association is gonna basically own,
They're gonna be at the burden of
Roadways.
repairing the roads.
maintain the roadway. So it's not ever gonna get to a point where it's gonna be a town issue, where somebody has to look back, 10 years from now and say, how are they supposed to build this road? We don't have any as-built plans. That's typically why these street and utility profile plans are required up front, to show that you're meeting the subdivision rules and regulation requirements, so.
So, we can look back at the
No, I
Quinn's
think, I
thing
think it's
before we give him an
just
answer.
getting Quinn to clarify that their comment related to,
I don't have Quinn's
It's on
response
the,
with me.
it's on the bottom of page 5.
I included
their
all the
comment
comments.
related to private
That's right.
driveways
Yeah, it's at the very bottom of page 5.
includes, includes perimeter,
Includes the entire subdivision.
Yeah, includes the entire subdivision.
I said subdivision, it's not
Well, it does say that it is expected that the proposed roadway will remain privately owned and that the town will not be responsible for maintenance. A 12-inch depth is consistent with the general practice for private driveways. This office defers
Okay,
to the
so you're-
board, but takes no exception to this waiver
That's their
request.
response right there.
okay. So
So-
you're seeing, you're reading roadway and driveways as being synonyms?
Well, it says
Interchangeable
privately.
in this term, in this terminology, so I already answered it.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
David, you agree with that on the bottom of page 5, that they've already answered that because their use of the word roadway and driveways is interchangeable?
Sure,
They,
just take
they,
it. Yeah.
they use roadway, yeah, I mean, on that second sentence, it is expected that the proposed roadway will remain privately owned and that the town will not be responsible for maintenance. A 12-inch depth is consistent with general practices for private driveways. So I think they're just differentiating that.
Yeah,
I think when they say roadway, they're talking about the private drive that is on the site development.
yeah.
And let's face it, it's a roadway, okay? I mean, I know you call it a driveway technically, but,
Okay.
it's a road that everybody's driving, that's a road. I mean, just in basic terms,
Yeah.
And
okay?
12 inches is,
Without getting
is
too,
fine. Yeah.
Okay, done.
But,
And if you'd like, I mean, we could always run it by Quinn one more time, just to have them
Can't hurt.
verify
it can't hurt,
for you.
You know.
It can't hurt,
because they're gonna have to review these comments anyways,
Correct.
your comments, so,
And this was.
so let's just add that if you
This was
don't.
sent to them,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, so, Dave, is that something you can follow up with Quinn?
Yeah, so you
Just on
want
that 12-inch
Just-
subbase,
to verify that
to
that's,
verify that they have no issue with that for
sure.
this type of road use? Or asphalt, vehicle traffic?
And I think as long as we can have clarification on the fact that we're using roadway and driveway interchangeably
Yeah.
based on subdivision regulations, that's
Yes.
what I'm interpreting your question to be, that you want clarified.
Right, and that they,
Yes.
and secondarily, that they agree that the 12-inch well-constructed road suitable on the perimeter driveway is,
Right,
Yeah.
is acceptable, not just on the personal parking driveways.
correct.
And I personally have no problem with the 12-inch subbase, but to your point, it's gonna require, the town requires more, as much as you can get is the best, because it just defers your maintenance for a longer period of time. To the applicant's point, hey, it is suitable for.
Yeah,
its
it goes,
use.
at some point, the responsibility goes from the applicant to the condo association.
Yeah, and they're the ones that are
I
gonna have
suppose
to pay,
that's-
and the 141
that's,
people, two people got to kick in to,
Yeah,
improve roadways, so.
Yep.
And to your point, Jim, I'm with you, because I wanna make sure we're doing the right thing for these people that aren't there yet. They don't have a voice
Right.
yet. We have to be their voice, to make sure that, they're not getting 2 inches of subbase there. This road's gonna wash out the first, good winter storm or something, or snowplow, we're gonna tear it right up. So, that's
And
all.
I do remember some time back on the planning board that Quinn had mentioned about 12 inches, but we and the board say, no, subdivisions are gonna be 18, period. We're not gonna go down to 12. And I do believe one of the developers was kinda upset because he wanted to go to 12 bad.
Yeah, and again, 12 is, it's not a problem for most places, but you get certain aspects, and if we just had a line of 12, then areas where you may need more, how do you, you can't pull them back that way, so I'd rather be able to allow some leniency than rather than trying to, pull them back over the line here, it's just not,
Not a town
It's a
road.
good point, Jim, thank you.
Is there a possibility that they could come back later and request it to become a town road?
No,
No? Okay.
there's no way there's no right of way associated with this, and there would be
Well, they wouldn't be able to because the way the roadway driveways are being designed, they wouldn't meet your subdivision
wouldn't meet our
regulations.
standards.
So they could come in and say, hey, will you accept these? And it's like, well, we can't because they don't meet town standards.
Got it, okay.
So,
And you could actually put a condition on this if you.
and then if they wanted to, they'd have to ask for a number of waivers.
Right,
which-
right, right.
And
That makes sense,
And then
okay.
variances to the units, because if we would put a layout in there off of the roads, then our buildings would be not in compliance to your zoning
Got it.
offsets.
Does anyone on the board feel we need to make that an order of condition that this can never be turned over to a town road?
Well, I think is it in their plan already, though? Like they said, because then they have to ask for waivers.
It's not, but I'm just saying, to
Oh,
your
that we
concern,
would
do you
make
wanna
it
have an
that,
order of
oh.
condition in our approval process here, if, assuming this gets approved, as one of the order of conditions that,
I
they,
think that's standard, and I think when we get to the decision stage, more than likely, town council will insert something in there that says the homeowners association will be required to maintain ownership and maintain the roadways.
all right, what's, any other questions, comments, guys? Michelle, anybody?
I know, I'm good right now.
All right,
If we could skip to item number 19, and I know we had this conversation at the meeting last time in regards to, there was a question about the fire flows out on the property or out on the Rutland Heights Way. And so I did reach out to Joe Buckley. He was able to send me over the latest water system analysis that was done by Weston and Sampson in June of 2020. And so right in that, there was basically an overall plan that summarized all the pressures within the town. And right in that section that we're connecting into, the pressures range from 76 PSI to 100 PSI. And so even with the height difference between where the entrances and the highest point on the property, we're probably gonna lose about 10 pounds of pressure, even to that highest point. So we put plenty of pressure on this project. And I asked him, I said, do you want us to do an initial flow test out there? And he seemed confident that with the results of the study that they already had done by Weston and Sampson, that there was enough pressure up there. And so I offered him to do a flow test, and he didn't take us up on it also. So we don't have an issue.
You wouldn't
with it.
do a flow test.
What's that?
You said he would not do a flow
No, he
test?
didn't say we wouldn't. He just didn't see the need for it at the time.
That was the problem, for crying out loud. It's not the pressure, it was the flow. It wouldn't,
So what he had said is when he said there was improvements done to the water system prior to this 2020 study. And he said with the improvements that they've done before this date, within the last, it must be 10 years or so, and he didn't get specifics of it, and he said that he was comfortable with the water out in that section. And I know when they extended it, they obviously extended it with, I think, an 8-inch main out along Rutland Heights Way when they did all the improvements on Rutland Heights Way. So,
I think I wanna see some data on this.
you betcha.
This is just a little too serious of an issue.
and again, I'll reach out to him and we'll.
If he doesn't have any data to back up his, comment, then if it's just his opinion,
No,
whether.
no, Weston and Sampson did all the analysis for them, and so what he gave us was the summary of their, and that summary showed what the pressures were in this section. I have no problem doing the flow test for them.
Well, I'd like to know what size pipe it is coming into, because
It's an 8-inch pipe on Rutland Heights.
on Rutland Heights.
Yep, and it's gonna be 8-inch into the development.
But what about,
But
Throughout
cut-
the development.
Yeah, but I wanna know what the heck is coming into the center of town.
So I can send you the map that he sent me. It has all that information on that map.
That'd probably be a good idea.
I'll forward it up to David and he can send it to the. all
so
the board
I guess,
members.
Okay.
but Dick, like in 2020, what were they testing? Where was,
So
the top of the hill, at the
all
top of the road?
improvements- So they tested throughout the whole town. And so they have, it's a color-coded map. And depending on what the pressures are on the hydrants, each hydrant was color-coded with regards to the ranges of pressures. And so I can't remember, I want to say it was green for 76 to 100 PSI. And so this section of town, all the hydrants were green. And so depending on what the pressure was, and the hydrant testing that Weston and Sampson did, it showed where the pressures were. And so they just had different ranges, and it was.
And they did the hydrants up Rutland Heights Way.
Oh yeah, yeah. And so I'll show. I can forward you the PDF that he sent me. And like I said, Weston and Sampson, and the date on the map was June 2020, is when the study was done.
But it was the flow rate that had problems down on Palmagussit, where in Lenny Gingles. subdivision.
Okay, I like this. I have no
And to
problem.
me, if it's a flow rate problem, pressure isn't gonna amount to a hill of beans.
We have no
Do you-
problem doing a flow test.
Yeah, are you gonna get enough
Well,
flow?
we offered it to him, and like I said, at the time, he didn't seem to,
You concerned?
yeah, but we'll do the flow test.
Yeah,
between now
I
and
just
then.
think, you know, with things that may have happened in the last year or two,
That's fine.
I just think it'd be appropriate at this time to get an up-to-date, accurate reading and, you know, analyze that from looking at, you know, I think we gotta look at it too from, you know, not just this development, but what if a commercial building goes in down low and you have sprinkler systems in there? You know,
Right.
it's, you
Yeah,
know,
we'll give you that, but like I
not
said,
that that's your problem,
I'll
but
forward you
we
the
need to look
PDF
at that,
so you
you
guys
know,
can-
comprehensively, you know?
Yeah, 'cause I thought it was a pretty nice piece of information that he had, that,
Yeah.
at least that summary page. You can kind of see throughout the town where your issues are with regards to pressure, so, at least with the pressure within the system, but. I don't know if he has, I didn't ask him for it, he may have one that has the volume of water too within the system too, but at least that's the one that he thought that I should have.
And he gave you a copy of that?
He sends it email to me, so I can email, I'll email it to David and he can.
Please, yeah.
Forward it up to
David,
board members.
Okay. Thank you, Wes.
So number 25 is the other item that got conversation with the board, and I know, and so the applicants, I know one of the projects that they really liked, I think was in Holden, no, it was in Hudson, correct? Hudson. So some of the tree species that they like there, and I can give you the list of tree species and shrub species.
Okay.
And see what the board thinks of, so river birch, white oak, dogwood, red maple, and ginkgo. That was the last tree. So those are the 5 tree species that they had seen there that they liked, that would fit in with this development. And then we talked about it last time, we were trying to look at something that wasn't overly huge, that would cause some damage to the sidewalks, or also kind of impede everything else going out there. It's kind of tight, so they didn't want anything that kind of grow that they have to cut down later on. So those are the species that they were looking at. I'm not sure if,
I noticed on the plan briefly, a lot of them going like on the ends and in the
Yeah, it
backyards.
was-
Is that the generally not really going in front of the houses, correct?
we show a few here and there in front of the houses too, but we kind of, the way I showed it is I kind of did it such that it was laid out. Where it was, you know, tree, shrub,
Yeah.
tree, and it
Okay,
was,
so
it was such that, yeah.
Between
so-
the building, yeah,
Correct, so where they kind
not
of.
directly in front.
Correct, correct. So you wouldn't impede their view outside of their house. You wouldn't be just looking right at a tree, but kind of fit them in there. And then obviously when we had some space, but, you know, I added more trees. Obviously at the entrance, we were showing trees and shrubs to kind of dress up the entrance a little bit. And then anywhere else that we had free space, we added some additional trees. But that was because of the type of development, it's tough to throw a large amount of trees right in front of the units. In a normal subdivision, you have those bigger lots. You know, we have the ability to do that, but
White oaks get pretty big.
Yeah, that was my, it's just a comment, not a concern.
Yeah.
White oak get a
so it might be a matter of where
Where
they
they go.
Yeah.
exactly. Because there are some areas that we aren't necessarily close to the units,
Mhm.
especially in the entrance. I think it would be.
Yeah.
I've heard of the species wood ginkgo, but I'm not familiar with that tree. Is that a big, large tree? Is it a small tree like the,
I think they're generally between 20 and 30 feet, and they have heart-shaped leaves.
Okay.
They're columnar, and a lot
Okay.
of, they're
almost like an
oftentimes
aspen or
along
something?
the... Yes, they look like aspens in the fall. They're good sidewalk trees. Apparently, there's a cluster of them in Boston Commons they've allowed to get big, and everybody comes to see them because they're just stunning, so whatever that's worth.
So how is your maintenance gonna handle the Mother Nature's critters that are up there right now? Have you seen those up there that have grown?
Oh, you're talking about the trees that are there now?
Yeah, the ones that are growing, coming in, you chop them down, and they come right back, and they're invasive.
Right.
They're very invasive, so you gotta be very careful up there. on
what's that
those.
up there now?
It's the olive. I call them olive trees,
Oh, yeah.
but, thank you, the state, for allowing it to come in, for crying out loud.
Yep.
It's terrible. So just be careful up there that they don't get mixed in.
And then the four shrubs that they're looking at are boxwood, blue creeping juniper, arborvitae, and then the high bush blueberry are the four shrubs that we have on the list of shrubs for the development.
Boxwood?
Boxwood that's the first one on the list, and I don't know, yeah.
They're really pretty popular, common trees. They can be, they can serve as kind of hedges. A lot of times you see them really small. You can shape them. They're thick, the very small, tiny little leaves, very hardy, low vegetation generally. I don't know if that helps.
I always thought the boxwood had a square stalk to it.
You mean the trunk itself?
Yeah.
We just planted these today. This is hard. That's the harsh boxes right there.
Okay, so, I mean,
They're small shrubs.
they will not grow in height?
They don't grow real tall, no.
Okay.
They might go up as high as 3 feet in height.
That place out in, I saw this piece
All right.
of wood fat, it was live edge wood place. All right, any comments or questions or concerns about what they proposed for the shrubs and the trees? Anybody on the board? I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I just gotta look in that boxwood. For some reason or other, it sticks in my mind as an invasive species that MDR had mentioned once to, keep away from, but,
You know,
all right.
I did check on all the others, but I did not check on that one. And if it's invasive, we just planted it today. That's not good.
But you usually can't buy those if they're invasive.
Never say never.
Yeah, Massachusetts got a lot of, you can't buy a lot of those things that are
Yeah,
invasive.
yeah, right. Okay.
I'm not saying you can't get them, but
Yeah.
it's not easy. All right, so I think we're fine with that, Wes. Have to look at the landscaping plan a little more in depth. Maybe, I don't know if we need. The only thing I'm concerned about is just some type of border along between the back of the units. If the board feels there needs to be any kind of, I know you show some sporadic landscaping between the back of the units, but just from a privacy thing. I mean, my sister lives in one of these, and they have a fence that goes between there, but it's kind of broken up. Just something to kind of give you a little, people can't see in the back sliding window, right? But,
And that's something that we had talked about. I don't think they were to that point yet on what's gonna happen in the back of those units. I know the lower section of those, there's a fairly good elevation drop there between the upper units and the lower units. The other ones, I know the middle one, there's a swale there, so that's why I didn't show plantings, and then the other one I did show some plantings, because it was relatively flat there.
Alright.
And so there's something that we have just quickly talked about, but nothing that, really is no final plan on how to back off of that, but it is something that they are aware of. Obviously, they want to sell the units and they want to provide some privacy, but.
yeah, again, just a little bit of privacy. I'm not saying,
Yep.
I don't want to see the China wall back there, but, just something to keep it an open neighborhood, but give you a little privacy, that's all. It's tight spacing.
And so the only one that I know, and I know we had a lengthy conversation at the last meeting, was regards to the phasing, and I know Quinn Engineering brought that up also, and I think we made a recommendation, and we made a recommendation in our letter. I'm not sure if the board wants to include that if a favorable decision is granted, that condition be put on, that the phasing be consistent with whatever the purchase and sales agreement is. I know they are required to build so many houses in phases, with the first phase, the second phase, and so forth. And so we didn't want one board to conflict what their purchase and sales agreement with the RDIC is. And so we just want to make sure that that was consistent.
So I'm not familiar with that agreement. Michelle and Dick, you may be, but
Well, you have to, wasn't there a certain number of units within that first, was it 40?
88 units.
88 units.
First,
44
I think,
buildings,
3
right?
years or something like
Yes.
that.
And so we just want to make sure that that
so
was.
is there a timeline or is it a construction phase that dictates this?
You know, it's, the town, when we negotiated the agreement, the town was like, well, we don't want this to go on forever.
Right.
Because we'll lose tax revenue. So we want you to build the units. And I think when we were discussing the number of units, it was like, well, at a minimum, you have to have 88 units done by a certain period of time once you get your building permit, then the clock starts to tick. And if they don't build the 88 units at the end of that time, then they have to start paying some type of a penalty to the town based on lost tax revenue. So something to that effect. I don't know the exact details because I haven't looked at that for probably over a year, but there is a
mechanism.
requirement in there.
Yeah, it was like, I think it was 1 year from the, I think you're exactly right. It's like 1 year, either from the date of the purchase and sale or 1 year from when they start. The clock starts 88 units, and then there's a penalty if it's not done.
And that's okay. But I just want to make sure that, again, there were some agreements that were in place. We didn't want to make sure that, Quinn's comments and this board kind of conflicted with what they already have an agreement with.
Yeah, no, good call.
Regards to that.
And I'm not, not part of these
Yeah,
discussions, I'm not an IDC board, and I'm, not part, and I'm not sure who's been really a part of the actual agreement, but I would like to see some type of phasing plans, just showing,
Yeah.
because I just want to make sure the drainage is correct. I very, very briefly opened it up and just saw how some of your retention basins were being fed, and how that would relate to a phasing,
So, yeah.
maintain access. I think, one thing I wanted to ask the board tonight, if the first phase, obviously you're going to start up on the top of the hill, I would assume, right? Work your way down that hill.
'Cause that's a
Yes.
contained
And
area.
that's what we had talked about.
You had this basin here,
Correct.
getting fed by a lot of this right here, so.
Correct, and that was that high point that we created here, and the same thing with the way we ended up laying out the sewer was to get to the certain number of units that they were looking for that first phase. And then,
So how many phases are you planning?
really, I think we talked about
Three.
3 phases, correct?
And just, what roads would they encompass phase by phase by phase?
Well, it would be the first phase.
So what
and
roads
then
would
Ron,
you build?
Well, I want to make sure that, it'd really be
Like you're gonna-
high point, and a high point.
Are you gonna, is this a phase,
That's really-
or is this loop a phase?
No, this
It
would
would
be
be
the,
right across through here, because this all gravity feeds down, gravity.
To that
gravity,
retention.
Everything comes down,
Correct.
water, everything comes here. Then everything from approximately.
And all the
here
utilities are coming in
goes
from here,
through-
correct?
That's correct. Everything works from this point, I think it is.
yeah, that's a high point.
That's your high point,
There's
yeah.
There's a
that point right
sewer,
there. Yeah, so it's from here over.
Okay.
From this one here, creates, I think it's 20 buildings, 40 units. Then we pick up from here to do this section here, all the way out to the street.
Okay.
And then we bring this back down, I think that's what it was, and then it was phase, and then phase, and completion of that. So it was like 20 buildings in the first phase, 23 or something on that idea in the second, and then what was left? So the third phase.
So I think within the first 2 phases, you want to get to that 88 units, right? Is that what?
Yes, but what we did is we continued the loop after the second phase.
So the second phase completes the loop and gives you both accesses?
Correct.
That's good. And I'm perfectly fine myself, my opinion, and I'd like to just ask the board, but, did you see how he described just starting that first upper loop? One way in, that's it, one way out. I'm fine with that for the first phase. I
Yeah.
mean, you're only talking about 20 units, you said, so
20 buildings.
20 buildings, 40
buildings,
units, I mean, that's,
40 units.
yeah, I don't have an issue with that, really, personally.
That
From a,
encompasses the clubhouse, that encompasses,
get you to
it sits, it's all one.
kind of the
And
boiler
they'd
room,
all
so to
get there
speak.
from that side anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So,
So that's where the utilities are gonna go in?
utilities
Up at the
come in
top.
that upper entrance
Upper entrance.
roadway, yeah.
Because
All the electric
I remember a long time
communications.
ago, we had
water,
talked
sewer.
about the lower one, but it's going in the
That
upper.
section.
Phase
So the
two,
sewer and the water is the service for that section from that, Rutland this way from there.
Mhm.
So we have gravity sewer shown from here, here, and here, down this way.
Yep,
So we can do this all by itself, and then when they get to the second phase, it would be the loop road and bringing the gravity sewer back out, to tie back into what was existing on the town's driveway. And so the way it was, and that's kind of how we set it up, so you can get those first 40 in with really a smaller section of sewer run, and then the next grouping would have to have a longer sewer run, to get to the gravity sewer.
electrical is coming up in here
Electrical
also.
would come in and it would probably, yes, electrical would come in.
Oh,
And they,
yeah.
and so what happens is once we get a really final plan, everybody, the town gives its blessing, we'll send the plan off to the utility company. And then they'll start drafting in where they want to put their.
Okay,
Yeah, you have to follow National Grid's plan, they're gonna give you a whole
Correct, and they'll do
engineer
us all-
drawing from them, you gotta build it to their spec, their trench inspector,
Exactly.
he inspects everything.
Yep, and so they'll work with what we have, and there's enough room for them to put all the boxes in, so,
Mhm.
and so that's typically how it's done, for that. But yes, that is the intent, is to come up into here. And really, this is the biggest amount of cut is within that first section.
Yeah.
Um,
and that's gonna be, yeah,
Is it,
that's basically where the auditorium used to be, was
The
right
high-
about in
the
there.
high point up top there, yeah.
Yeah,
And this is where that high point's gonna remain afterwards.
by the theater.
Yeah, and then the community center's gonna be up top of that, really.
I mean, the 450 seat theater that I tried to get Senator Brewer to,
Wes,
get me
one
started.
thing that's, I don't wanna say it's been bothering me, but it's been on my mind, and I wanna bring this up to the board, but it's this retention basin.
Yep. I can't do anything. Really,
You gotta, I mean, that right by the road, right, that is just brutal, man.
I have no way
What can we do
to,
about that?
I have nowhere else to put it. Really, when I initially looked at this, I was trying to see if I could put it over here. But all the steep grades here, I have no room to do anything with the basin. This is the low point for that whole section. There's no way really for this water to go anywhere else. There's an existing basin here, but you can see all the steep slopes. There's nothing I can do to really work that.
And after everything is seeded down and
It's gonna be green afterwards, and that's why I know to
then-
show,
yeah, I don't know how deep that is, it's, whatever, so
How deep is that basin?
it's gonna be 5 feet deep.
it might be something that, put a little thought to it and throw a plant garden in it or something,
So anything that you grow in there has to be more of like a long grass or anything like that. You can't do any shrubs or trees
No.
along there because it will impact the basin.
Yeah.
The structural,
All the roots and everything, destroy everything.
Do you have to have a fence around there?
What's that?
You have to have a fence?
I do not show a fence.
God, I don't want
We
a
don't-
fence around that thing.
No,
I mean, I gotta have a fence around my pool.
No, well, that's
yeah.
different because it's,
I'm serious, I got a 5-footer.
no, so the intent of these is not to hold water for that long. It's usually 24 hours is the.
that is correct.
So, for the water to be held in there. And so
Plus
that's
they have
why,
to get in it periodically during the year to maintain
Correct.
it, mow the grass and
and
take
really
stuff out of it.
Yeah.
the biggest thing that we see for these is right after construction to make sure it's clean. And then really after that, it's seeded and growing, and the periodic maintenance of it's more mowing than anything. Again, we know, when I looked at it, it's not ideal location. I know for an entrance into a
I mean,
development.
you don't see retention basins by the entrance of a.
Well,
New-
depending on the topography of sites are.
I know, it's just,
We do it
Florida,
more than we'd like to, but it happens.
it's just like, oh boy, that's gonna be ugly there.
We can make it like the pool at Caesar's Palace in Vegas, like that rainwater family.
Shoot the water up.
We might-
The
we might have-
barrage
we
up
might
and get
have
the
to-
water shooting up
Yeah.
there, sure.
I could see
Yeah,
kids
yeah.
now walking to school, stopping off.
Well, all right. Is there any room, or is there any way of, low shrubs around it or something like that? Something to kinda, is that possible?
Maybe along the street there, we
Yeah.
could,
Something to just kinda
we can take a look at that.
keep the traffic and the flow of people like out of it, and hopefully the cars won't be going too fast if they do, get off track a little bit. Just from a looks point of view and, aesthetics and, minor public safety reasons, that's my,
Yeah,
where I'm coming from.
we'd rather not fence it, being right there at the
Yeah,
entrance, so
no.
that's why, like I said, the majority of the time it's gonna be dry, and that's why we show the wick drains.
Sure, even like a post rail fence wouldn't be bad there either. Something like that might not be bad either.
We can have a conversation about, well, at least along the edge there, but
That section not a bad
the
idea.
biggest thing is we gotta see if we
Yeah.
have enough room there.
Think about something like that, see if you can just kind of throw a little,
Yeah, something decorative
something
there.
pleasurably looking
Yep.
towards that, and
Okay.
if it has to be there, it has to be there, but at least we can dress it up a little bit
Yeah,
on the
the
outside.
location is,
Don't want us to break the bank, I'm not trying to, kill you here or nothing.
if I could move it, I would've moved
I'm
it.
not trying to say we gotta rip units out and,
Yeah.
or some, but
The other ones we were able to hide. This one we were
I don't
able
want
to
you to set a precedence either, because I do not want any fences around any detention ponds.
hide. Especially in the
I've been in
edges of the
Concom
sidewalk, we
and
don't
planning
want-
board
No,
for
but
a
if
long
you had,
time,
like,
and
fence,
no
like-
way.
you ever see like the white vinyl post and rails, Dick? And if it was just a little, like, it just kind of came out and around it.
Yeah, but
You didn't
then the-
surround anything like a caged
More
animal.
decorative than-
Yeah, but just kind of decorate that corner with a fence, it kind of gives you a little sight line that there's a roadway there, you walk, and then you don't see that thing, and, I don't know, just to kind of dress it up for the people that are gonna live there every day, that's my thought. Keep the riffraff out of the thing,
Yeah,
Okay. All right, is that pretty much it for, Quinn's comments?
The rest of it's gonna be more wait for Quinn to have a chance to review it and then get back to us, make sure that they're okay with our responses. Because we made some tweaks to the plan, but it really, if you're looking at the plan itself, you would notice the tweaks, it's more technical than anything. We've added double catch basins and details and like I said, the light post and other things that they were looking for. I did add the vertical curbing on the plans. I know that was, we talked about that, so that is on the plan.
And I only looked very quick, Wes, but I didn't see those little, we gonna do speed bumps there, the real slow, low ones there?
We did talk about the speed bumps, and we were actually, one of the things we want to talk, I guess, have a conversation about that. If instead of speed bumps, would the board be more willing to have like rumble strips? Concern we were having is plowing. Obviously, where we're located, right, it's plowing's an issue. So we weren't sure if the board would be willing more to like have a rumble strip, like you have inside of a
Yeah.
highway.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
that.
I like the rumble strips.
I like that idea too.
Any preference?
I'd rather have the speed bumps or,
Well,
I'd rather have the rumble
Yeah.
strips.
Personally, I can't stand the speed bumps, yeah.
and that's why I know we were looking at even the speed humps, but
Humps,
it becomes more of a plowing. It's still a plowing.
Understood, yeah.
And that's where we're running, if the board, if you have to have something, we prefer, I guess, the.
But you're not gonna paint the thing or anything, right? It's not,
No.
it's just
No.
gonna be,
It's still gonna be.
just cut into the asphalt, and,
Correct.
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Let them know
I
there's.
Yeah.
don't wanna make the thing look like a giant yellow, you know.
No.
Some of
Makes
them
the
got cut,
noise.
some of them are painted up like that. I'm not looking for anything like that, right, guys?
Just like
Just
when you
have it
go into
blend in,
Barry and you're coming up on the
Exactly, on
rail
the rail
trail, you
trail.
got the,
Yeah.
and it kinda like, you know, just kinda like.
Yeah,
So it
so,
alerts you that you're, yeah, exactly.
I live 2 miles away and I can hear those in my backyard.
Oh, can you really?
But they won't be traveling at
that's speed.
Hopefully that's
50 miles an hour either, so.
Okay.
They can be noisy.
Well, from the noise, if you're walking, someone's driving up behind, it's not a bad thing either, so, like that walking trail, there'll be a lot of people walking here, and, yeah, we'll be amenable to that. All right. Unfortunately, I don't really have a whole lot of questions and comments for you, I just didn't have any time to really dig into that information personally myself.
To be honest with you, a lot of it was, I think, technical in nature back to Quinn,
Yep.
to make sure that they were comfortable with our design.
Sure.
The items that I thought I wanted to at least have a conversation with the board, I wanted to bring up tonight with you guys, just make sure you guys are comfortable with those items and what else we need to bring to you at the next time. And I know we have some traffic items that we need to get from the traffic engineer.
I just got one question. At the last meeting, there was at least one individual group that were kind of adamant about the size of the garage. They had me take a look at it. I was wondering, did you look at it? Yeah, but I'm just,
But there's no
I didn't see any
measurement
scale
here,
to
is
it,
it?
and I can't tell if that's 4 feet or 3 feet.
Yeah.
And I was just,
We did, we altered the plan, we kept the same footprint, we moved things around to accommodate exactly what she was asking. You can see the size here, and then we made it larger, so. she-
oh, okay, good. All right, thank you. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Strange, because we went by one in Amherst today, pedaling our bikes, and I says, look at the garage for crying out loud. That's it, right there. And I'm glad she brought it up, because she was right on the,
It's actually a really good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We jumped on it.
Couldn't argue with it.
and came up with
yeah,
this.
no, that's good.
Does the board have any general comments on the profile and the floor plan that the applicant
How are you
provided?
gonna heat that? The houses, how are they gonna be heated?
Oil, gas, net propane?
Wood?
There will be the, what do they call them, yeah, mini splits that are,
So just electric?
yes. We can't, it's too many propane tanks to make
Yeah.
for a site like that. And oil is not my favorite.
Not a good selling point today. Mercy.
I have one question. It's more a real estate question. Real estate and question. So you're limited to 2 bedrooms. What's the difference between a bedroom and an office?
Closet.
Closets. And, you know, when we had this conversation a while ago, it's over 55, but there's still people working, correct? And everybody's
Yeah.
remote working now, or a lot of people are remote working, so they're asking for that extra space. And that was the biggest question, is how do we get that extra space? And not having a closet in that space makes it an office, not a bedroom.
I have no issues with this layout or the look, the
No.
profile of the building. It's certainly not tall enough to be an issue, and,
No.
you know, I mean, he's the builder, and you guys gotta market what you can sell, so it certainly blends in with the town, it's not a, you know, country-looking place, so it's not bad, it looks pretty good, you know, so I don't have any issues with that. You guys all in favor of that?
Yep.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, no issues there. I assume obviously there'll be walkways just off the, from the driveway area to the front door, or that's a covered, I know one of them, it's a covered entrance right off the side. Okay, so you enter right off the side of the asphalt? Yeah,
Yeah,
gotcha. Right on the
so
side.
that's a covered entrance.
Yeah.
And then just that part is, and this one bumps out more to make the,
The office there.
yeah.
Okay. All right, anything else that you guys have this evening? We need to go over that you submitted?
Is that all right?
I think that's it.
You guys have anything else, right, we're good?
Are we just gonna be on call for the next meeting?
Well, we can discuss that. Just before we get into that, so just to recap a few things, we do gotta give them some answers on the waivers, so that's something we're gonna have to be prepared to, talk about. Let's maybe make that a point of interest in the next meeting.
Okay.
I'd like to hear back from Quinn, get all his thing, let's get a little bit more, all the data here, all the information here, so that we're not gonna be making a decision prematurely. But if we can get that, then maybe we can dig into some of these waivers, if not all of them. But just from a board perspective, be prepared to, if any concerns or questions you have on those, be ready for the next meeting for that. Anything else looking ahead here that we want to kind of ask from the applicant? Anything else we need from them submitted by them? Other than what we've asked for tonight? Guys all pretty good?
I'm good.
All right. Anything else that you guys, I know the waivers you need some direction on. Anything else from us you need direction on coming up?
Nope, that was
Okay,
it.
so-
I think that's
Design
it.
layout?
The only thing I might, depending on when we meet next, I just want to touch base with town council to give her an update, because when it comes to the decision, I'm not sure who you would have write the decision. Would it be you, Dave, or would it be Sharon, or how do you typically handle?
Right, I think in this particular case, what I would do is I would draft it.
Yeah.
Then I would submit it to town council,
Okay,
have her take a look at it, make sure it's consistent with these other documents and so forth.
okay, all right, very good.
Just like on the other one.
Okay.
Fair enough. All right, so to Doug's point, what's the next date? When do you think we could have some of this information? Dave, do you have any idea from Quinn what their turnaround time would be?
Quinn is very good.
Very busy.
I'd actually expect if I went back to my office that there's probably a response.
Well,
I mean, Quinn is very, very good, so I would expect a response on a very timely basis.
okay.
Especially since they've already had a look at this and they're very familiar with this project already.
Okay. All right. So there's certainly, I'm not around next week. What's the board's availability? Tamika, what are the,
I would say after June 15th, because the 15th is the cell tower.
cell tower, they get the 15th on the cell tower.
And can we do it between the 15th and the 19th? If possible.
I'm sorry?
Can we do it between the 15th and the 19th if possible?
Is the 19th a Wednesday?
No, the 19th is a Sunday.
Yeah.
The 15th is a Wednesday or the 8th.
You away that week, next week?
22.
I'm going to be.
How much time do you guys
June
need?
30th.
I don't think we need that much time. Unfortunately,
I have time to go through this, and I'm away next week.
I'm not
Oh, you're
available
next
on the
week.
8th.
The 8th is not a good night anyways, there's a ZBA meeting, and there's also a public forum for the master plan on the same night.
Then do you want to shoot for the 15th, or is that bad?
Chris, if I may,
Yep.
we're also not strictly limited to Wednesday nights. If the board was open to a Thursday night, that might free up an option as well.
The
The
16th?
15th is the South
Yeah,
Tower.
15th, I'm on the zoning board also, we have a cell tower hearing, it's a long one, so, we've already got that booked. So is the 16th for everybody? I know we kind of, Wednesdays work good for everybody, but to Tamika's
I'm
point.
good on Thursday.
Thursday the 16th, is that right?
I'm out of town on the 16th.
You're out of town the 16th?
I could do the 9th, which is the week before.
Ninth goes.
Is that open?
As far as I know, that's not ringing the bell.
There's a conflict with one of the members, there's a master plan, I'm sorry, there's the CMRPC annual meeting.
Well, that's right.
There's a conflict with one of the members, and I also will need to be there as well as staff, so.
Is that you?
Yes, it is.
I'm away next week, and that's not gonna give me a lot of time to dig into
Can we
this.
do Tuesdays?
Tuesday's the top.
Tuesday's a problem, yeah.
Yeah.
There's your AdCom or CONCOM every other week, so it's a conflict. Or planning board,
And planning board.
which,
How about July 17th? No. It's my birthday.
Oh.
The only other option would be to do, a Monday opposing the select board meeting. Opposite.
What, do you know the dates of that?
Yep, so the next one after this coming week is June 13th. So you could do it on June 6th, but I know you said Chris, that wasn't enough time for you, and then.
Yeah, it does,
June 20th.
would be 20.
That doesn't work for you, 20th. And you're gone from 20th to the 30th?
Yeah.
So 2 weeks you're up?
So, yeah. So if we had to do it then, would we still have the Zoom option?
Absolutely, yep. You could
And
do
then it would
Zoom.
just,
So the
if I
20th,
could, otherwise I might miss it, but I'm okay with that. Like,
the 22nd, which day? Do you think you might be able to do the 22nd on Zoom?
possibly, but I can't. I'll have to see. We're gonna be out west, so time-wise and stuff and what we're doing.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying, I might miss it. But I would understand if I have to, if we can't do it at a different time.
How's everybody else on the 22nd?
June?
June, yeah.
I'm all right.
I believe it's okay.
So if,
It's
yeah,
okay.
June 22nd is fine with me.
So from a voting perspective, if she's not here at a meeting, she doesn't make it,
That's okay, you just need 3 members to have a quorum.
yeah.
we just need 3, so, okay.
And I'll try to make it if I can.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
so let's shoot for that then.
My understanding is, well, if you're gonna vote that night and she's not here, so that's, all right.
But she's still allowed to vote on it later on if we're on the
Yes,
final?
If she watches the, if
She
she
can
watches,
miss one meeting.
she can miss one meeting, she can watch it,
Watch
she
it.
still has.
And
the-
sign the form that says she,
Okay, you can watch it on the TV, yeah.
Yeah.
And or if she is on Zoom at
She
night.
has to sign, some type of acknowledgement or disclosure or something like that.
That's
Okay.
right.
Yeah, that's through the town clerk's office, Michelle. I
Okay.
think it's called like the Mullins rule or.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so the 22nd,
I would be agreeable.
6:30?
6:30 is, yeah, same time, right, Dick, 6:30,
Yes.
you did 6:30, right? I like 6:30 myself.
Yep.
It's too late,
Sorry.
Okay.
I had to get to bed.
So what date we end up with?
All right, so do we
June,
need a
22nd.
continuance from
22nd,
them?
thank you.
Or,
So first we have to do a motion to continue.
okay,
6:30 here.
so do we hear a motion to continue to?
Also move.
Second,
All right, move to second, any discussion?
Briggs, aye.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, unanimous carries, so we'll continue this, this hearing until June 22nd at 6:30 PM. And that's about it. All right, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
Have a great night.
Thank you very much.
Move down the agenda to any other new business or any other items to discuss? New old business? I think we're pretty well good.
Yep.
The house cleaning,
Move to
right, meeting
adjourn.
minutes are good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys,
Thank
have a
you,
great
guys.
night.
Yeah, good night.
Okay.
So
All
we're
right,
closed at
so
7:55.
do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All right,
Yeah.
motion made in second. Any discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Did I-
Unanimous, carries, meeting is closed.